morning sunshine, rocking the good time with all our friends. Easy and carefree, out in the summer breeze, loving a simple things for hours on end. Around about sundown, we lay on the ground, count on the stars as they come out one at a time. Ain't this a sweet life?
Hey everybody, I'm X Factor winner Tate Stevens, and welcome to the Sweet Life Podcast, where we talk about everything from music, sports, food, entertainment, and, well, just living the sweet life. Hey everybody, thanks for listening to today. It's me, Tate Stevens, and as always with me is AJ Kronk.
Yeah, man.
All right, today we got a good one. All right, this is going to go back, for me, it's going to go back pretty much until I was 6 years old. Okay, I'm going to take you back a little bit. I got a friend on who probably, I'm going to brag a little bit, because probably out of all the guitar players you're ever going to get to hear, this guy is in the top, I would say the top 3 to 4 guys that you'll ever get to hear, top guitar players that you'll ever get to hear play. So, with that said, my buddy Elijah Chastain is on the show today.
How's it going, fellas?
All right. So, man, we got a lot to talk about. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be we're just telling stories. So, we're going to start off. Now, who or what was it in your family? You come from a big family.
Oh, big.
Biggin. You got a few brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I'm the baby of 13.
Good grief.
My daddy was an old-time Pentecostal preacher, and I think when he read in that go forth and be fruitful, he felt like he had to do it all himself or something. So,
he was trying to fulfill the word.
I'm telling you what. That's right.
So, what started the music? What was it? I mean, just family?
Yeah, I mean, Mom and Dad both played. Mom was a great rhythm guitar player, and Dad, he played a little bit of anything that had strings on it, you know.
Okay.
Banjo was probably his main instrument, but I remember as a kid, we'd sit around. Of course, this was before the internet and cable TV and all that stuff. We'd sit around the living room and pass off the banjo to the next brother, and they'd swap guitars and the fiddle, and we always had an upright piano that was way out of tune. So we sounded like a hillbilly orchestra to start with, you know. But that's how we learned.
Right.
I remember specifically when I first started playing guitar, playing music at all. I was 7 years old, and my brother Philip was pastoring at the time. He was a minister, and he was holding a revival in Kansas City. And I went down there to the service, and something just led me to go to the altar, right?
Right.
So I went up there and gave my life to the Lord at 7 years old.
Wow.
And the very next day, I picked up a guitar and was playing songs.
Eeks.
And I mean, it wasn't like just a couple of notes here and there. It was
right. You were playing.
I was playing songs. I was playing full chords. Didn't know what they were. Couldn't tell you what they were. But I was playing, Hank Williams, Your Cheating Heart the very next day. And so I always looked like any talent that I had was, a gift from the Lord.
Absolutely.
So I got to give thanks for that, for sure.
I believe that for sure. Yeah. So 7 years old, get a guitar.
Yep.
Did you know that was the instrument you wanted to play? Or did you just go, that's a guitar, I'll grab it?
Well, I didn't have a guitar when I was 7. So what I had to do was be creative and sneak my brother Bob's Telecaster out when he wasn't home. Because my mom's guitar, she had this old flat top that I had to lay it flat on my lap, and wrap my hand underneath the thing, and strum like so to be able to play that doggone thing.
Right.
And it was too difficult. Well, that Tele was nice and thin, had that little bitty old thin neck and them light gauge electric strings. So I'd wait till I'd make sure Bob was gone, and I'd pull that thing out from underneath his bed and play away,
That's now. Did your mom say, hey, did she hear you playing, or did somebody hear you playing and go, "Hey, come here,
yeah,
come here, sit down. This is really good. You're doing all right."
They all knew I was playing. I mean, like I said, the very next day I just picked it up. I picked up Mom's guitar, and like I said, where there's a will, there's a way.
Right.
Playing it, kind of sideways, upside down, whichever you want to say. So they all knew I could play. My dad actually caught me sneaking Bob's guitar. And so he gave me fair warning, don't let your brother catch you with his guitar.
Right.
It wasn't long after that my dear old Uncle Charlie actually gifted me my first electric guitar.
Wow.
A 1968 Sears Silvertone.
Oh, my goodness.
It wasn't much, but by golly, it was mine.
Yeah,
you know?
by God.
So,
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Was lead guitar? I mean, obviously, as a little kid, you hear all kinds of music.
Sure.
You know, you're listening to all because your brothers are older, your sister, everybody's older, so you're getting this total influence of music. It's like a wall of music from every genre that you could possibly hear.
Absolutely.
What was it that was just like, oh my, that I want to be able to do that and sound like? How does that guitar sound like that?
Well, I can remember, you know, fairly young, like I say, probably 10 or 11 years old. Riding around with my cousin Belinda, my Uncle Charlie, who gave me the guitar. This was his daughter, and she was a big bluegrass fan and was a big Ricky Skaggs fan. Yeah. So the very first time I heard Ricky Skaggs and I heard Ray Flack play that Telecaster like that, I thought,
Oh, yeah.
that's what I'm meant to do. I want to sound just like that guy.
Yeah.
Of course, I never will sound just like that guy, but I'll always strive to. You know?
Sure.
But that was it. That got me hooked on that kind of, you know, chicken picking kind of, you know, style.
Right. So the bluegrass country thing. Once you heard that was, you were like, this is me. This is where I live.
Well, you know, we grew up, you know, in church, playing in church, and my dad, you know, he wrote a ton of old gospel songs, bluegrass influenced heavily. Right. And so I was kind of into that bluegrass style to start with, and then when I heard that edge that Skaggs put on it, you know, his take on that, I thought, man, that's the stuff right there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm after.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Okay, so now you're about, what, 10, you think, 11? Right in there. So people notice this little kid who can play the guitar, really play the guitar.
Right.
Not just get up there and punk and plick and, you know, like, you know, kind of half-ass do it. You can really play.
Well.
You know what I mean? So even at that age, you're like, hey, I can do this, right? So you were very fortunate as a young man and young kid to get to play on the stage of the KC Opry with Tuffy Williams. How did that happen? How did that all come about?
Man, that was, you know, for one, that was a huge blessing to get to work on that show.
Right.
And the experience of standing backstage watching all the Nashville greats come through there. It was a wonderful experience. The way I got hooked up with that show was actually at the elementary school that you and I went to, Hillcrest Elementary.
That's right.
They'd always have an annual talent show.
Yep.
And so one year, I think I did it just myself with a guitar. I played guitar and then I played a little banjo number and won the show. And our school nurse at the time, she was the sister of Tuffy Williams, who owned and ran and operated KC Opry.
That's right.
And so
I remember that
Miss Kelly, our PE teacher, if you remember her.
I do.
Her daughter had I believe it was some kind of childhood cancer, and they were having a benefit for her at the Opry. And so Carol, Tuffy's sister, was just telling Tuffy, so you got to get this kid up, let him do a couple songs, you got to hear this kid.
Right.
So me not knowing any better, I just got up there and I did my couple of songs, and I didn't know whether to hang around or to leave or what, and everything. And it was a Sunday, so I believe we had church. We didn't stick around very long. We left and went to church. And so Tuffy, he's on a mission now after he heard me. He's like, I want to get that kid back on the show and get him to guest and everything, you know. So he got my folks' number from Carol.
Yeah.
And called the folks and said, hey, why don't you bring him up and, you know, we'll put him on the show this week, have him do a couple numbers. So I'd go up one week and I'd play a couple, and he said, man, that, you know, we really went over pretty good. Why don't you come back next week and let's do a couple more tunes, you know? And this ended up being an every week thing before he finally said, hey, why don't you just be part of the show full time?
Right.
I'm a 10-year-old kid. I just wanted to play. I didn't, you know, wasn't talking about money or anything like that. I'm just like, to get to play with a real live band on a real live stage in front of a live audience like this, you know. And that was a 952 seat theater, I think. So it was a big old place.
Yeah, it was a good one.
And so it was like a dream come true to get to work on that show.
Absolutely.
And you know, the like I said, the stars that went through there. The education of just standing backstage watching Ray Price and the Cherokee Cowboys.
Yeah.
You know, with those three fiddle players playing.
Just,
you know,
ridiculous.
Miss Loretta Lynn opened for her, opened for Conway, and just all these. And it's just, you know, as a young kid, you can't buy that kind of an experience to learn from the pros like that.
Yeah, you can't pay for that.
No.
That's priceless.
Absolutely.
That's priceless stuff. You can just be a sponge and soak it all up.
Absolutely right.
I remember going because my dad played music, and my dad would go and Dad would open up for a few bands that they'd bring in, and Tuffy'd bring my dad's band in.
Right.
And just to get to go to the Opry was so cool, such a great experience, and then go backstage and meet them and do all that stuff. So, and here I am. I'm just a few years younger than you, so I'm standing there watching, you know, people like Exile and on these great bands and artists, and then you get the people like Boxcar Willie, who you're like, Boxcar Willie, how cool, how cool is Boxcar Willie? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just to see him in his heyday of Boxcar Willie, you know, and people were freaking out, and at first, you know, as a kid, I'm like, I don't get it. But then I got it.
Yeah.
You know, just halfway through a show, I'm like, this is awesome. This is really cool. So seeing that Lee Greenwood.
Oh, yeah.
Lee Greenwood. You know, Lee Greenwood would walk out and, you know, this is God bless the USA, man.
Yeah.
This is I mean, you watch this man, you're like, oh my God, this is the guy. And he walks out and he kills it. Great entertainer, you know, good guy.
I never will forget, he was actually at Tuffy's and had just written God Bless the USA. Hadn't released it as a single yet, but he told everybody, hey, see what you think of this song. I'm getting ready to put it out. It should be out within the next month or so.
Right.
Absolutely brought the house down, of course. And as soon as you heard it the first time, you knew mega hit here, you know.
Yeah. But how cool was that? So for you as a kid, you're just standing back there going, and watching their players.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, watching his musicians get up.
Yeah.
Watching them warm up or do whatever, and you learn. You know, you're just like, okay, so maybe I should tune, and maybe I should do this maybe before, you know, or whatever. Maybe you know, I can do these things. Warm up this way. He warmed up that way, and you know, he did great. I can warm up that way too.
Right.
So things like that.
Oh, absolutely.
So you were at the Opry. You were at the KC Opry for how many years there?
Oh gosh, I was off and on there, and from the time I was 10 till I was not quite 16.
Okay.
Because it was just probably a week or two before my 16th birthday. I think I actually started at the show in Pleasant Hill.
Okay.
So I went from Tuffy's to Big Creek in Pleasant Hill.
Okay.
So where was the KC Opry?
It was at the Inglewood Theater there in Independence, right off of Winter Road.
Oh, okay.
I believe it was 17217 Winter Road.
Oh, wow.
I think I remember all those old advertisements.
Yeah.
You know, and just talk about Tuffy for a second. Here's a guy. Here's a guy who, I mean, he fit in a lot of different categories, you know, because Tuffy was like Bob Seger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He even kind of looked like Bob Seger.
Looked a lot like him, yeah.
You know what I mean? But Tuffy was, he's a country guy, could just absolutely make the piano do whatever he wanted to.
An amazing musician.
Yeah, and just
absolutely.
And he could just play, and he sang good. It was just cool. And you know, his story goes way back, and then even past the Opry with, you know, just for all the people he knew in the music industry. From doing it for years. So just for that opportunity for you as a kid that's huge. You can't pay, like I said, you couldn't pay for that. No one could give you that kind of knowledge and experience. You couldn't pay for it.
To say I was blessed to be a part of that, to me, is a true understatement, because
for sure,
to see everything that I was exposed to at such a young age, and thank God I had the wherewithal to pay attention to what they were doing, and I'm just so thankful for that.
And so all the musicians in Tuffy's band, you know, he had some really good ones in that band, and some coming in and out throughout the years, but. You go to Big Creek right next, which Dennis Dennis did more there in Pleasant Hill.
They were really structured like a true Branson show because they had a full-time comedian there, but they did different skits every week.
Yeah.
And I can remember when I first started at Big Creek, if you didn't call by Wednesday to get a ticket for that Saturday night show, you didn't have a seat come Saturday.
Yeah.
They'd be sold out.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, that was before the boats came to town and everything.
Right, right.
When that was the real, popular thing to do. But yeah, it was such a great, I guess, I don't know if you want to say a novelty show, because they would do special shows.
Yeah.
They still to this day do oldies rock and roll shows, those kind of things, history of country music shows and stuff. And they do a fine job presenting those still to this day.
And like I said, Dennis and Cindy and everybody, and Debbie Erickson, who's been on KFKF for 100 years now.
Yep.
She's always there, and she, super talented people. In Kansas City at that time, you had the Northtown Opry, because Tuffy, they closed down. They had closed.
88, I think, is when he actually closed down.
So they were gone, but you had the Northtown Opry you had Byron Jones in the Northtown Opry. You had what was the one up north?
You had Cousin Pud's place up in Laredo.
In Laredo, yeah.
And then you had Buddy Boswell's show
the Boswells
up in Edgerton, Missouri.
Edgerton, that's right.
Then there was the Cass County Opry down here in Harrisonville, just down the road from us.
Yeah, because that was the that was the Mays Boys. Mays,
yeah.
yep.
That's a whole nother chapter right there.
And so we'll get to that. So Big Creek, you had a handful of Opry shows around.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Lake, the Opry, the Ozark Opries and stuff like that. But around here, we had probably half a dozen pretty decent Opry shows.
Pretty good quality shows.
You could go to and hear some great music and stuff like that. So you're at one of the better, and I hate to say, I can't say better, but you're one of the bigger, actually bigger, because they were bigger than even the Cass County Opry. They had set more people and things like that.
Right.
So you were at one of the bigger ones then. And how long was your first stint at Big Creek?
I want to say I was there the first time, probably 2 years. Probably 2.5 years. I think, actually might have actually been a little bit longer than that, because I ended up leaving Big Creek to go to work for the Cass County show, their little rival.
Yeah.
Not that I was upset at anybody at Pleasant Hill or anything. But,
Right.
But I had a good opportunity to go down there and work on the show in Harrisonville. And, so I was probably Big Creek, probably closer to 3 years, before it was all said and done.
Now, I started playing the Opries and played the Big Creek show with you. And then we went to Cass County, played the Cass County Opry with you and Angie and Brad. I think Brad down there. Meadows, was he playing drums down there?
No, Brad never played at Cass County. He filled in a time or two there at Pleasant Hill when I was there.
Right.
Actually, I kind of lost track of Brad until we opened the show in Lewisburg.
Did you go back to Big Creek before Lewisburg?
Yeah, actually, so I left Big Creek, went to Cass County. I was only at Cass County for really just a couple of months, and then I went on the road.
That's right. You went
with our buddy Joe Patterson.
Yep, old Joe.
Went out on the road, did a stint in Reno and Vegas, and when I was in Reno, I was very privileged to get to play. We were there for 2 weeks, and the way they'd work those shows out there at the Nugget was they'd have all your amps and everything set up on these little risers that had wheels on them. And so we would play an hour or 50 minutes, and then they'd roll our stuff behind a curtain, and the next act would roll out. They'd play 50 minutes. We had 10 minutes in between shows. And just so happened that the week I was out there, Freddie Powers, I don't know if you know Freddie Powers.
Okay, the name sounds familiar.
Okay. Great songwriter. He wrote "You Got a Friend in California" for Haggard, and he's had a bunch of stuff recorded by Willie, and great singer songwriter, and he would play. I never will forget. He had this Ovation, and he would just flat beat the tar out of that thing. But for every note, he could play a different chord. He was just kind of one of those guys. Just knew that neck,
Right.
And so it was impressive for me to watch him play because I'd never seen anybody play that real chunka Western swing style. But in his band, he had Engelbert Humperdinck's drummer, he had Milton Quackenbush, who was playing piano for Merle Haggard at the time. So
Wow.
he was playing key bass and piano. And he had Scott Joss, who was just inducted into the National Fiddle Players Hall of Fame. He was playing fiddle, and at the time, he was working for Dwight Yoakam.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a great band. I
Yeah.
mean, it was
Yeah.
great Western swing, and it was the first time I'd really been exposed to a heavy dose of Western swing was those 2 weeks we were out there. And,
Right.
well, Freddie, I was a young guy. I was 19 by that time because stupid me, I just got married and decided, hey, let's go play on the road.
Yeah.
What was I thinking? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the
Stupid
last
for going on the road or getting married.
well,
Yeah. Listen, I don't think she's going to listen to it, so
That's
you can say
okay.
whatever you want.
we've been together. Well, actually, we've been married 30 years now, so I'd say that was the wise decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, there.
So, but anyway, that last week, Freddie actually asked me, and this was such an honor for me. He said, "Hey, Elijah, what do you think about sitting in with me and the boys this last week out here?" Man, I could have died and went to heaven right then. It
Right.
was like, this is awesome. So, as a guitar player, and especially as a young guy, when you're learning licks, you want to throw them all out there, right? And
Yeah.
there's a time where it comes to you better play tasteful.
Yeah.
And when you're playing with the big dogs, you dang well better play tasteful. So that whole week I was intimidated, loving every minute of it, but at the same time I didn't play one note unnecessarily unless somebody looked at me to play. And then I would play my best and I would stop and get back on my paper, and I just play rhythm the rest of the time. And I never will forget that Freddie took me aside after we were done and we were packing our stuff. He was packing his stuff, and he put his arm around me and he says, "Elijah," he says, "man," he says, "you're a really, really good little guitar player." He says, "but if you want to be a great one, you better go home and learn how to play some chords." And I took it as though he thought I was overplaying. I just instantly took it that way because, here I'm a youngster and
Right.
I'd been may have been accused of overplaying once or twice. And taste is one of those things you gradually learn, right?
Right.
But as soon as I got back to town, of course, I went back to the Cass County Opry, and when I left there, they had hired a gentleman by the name of Terry Mays.
Yeah.
Terry had played with the Plummer family down in Branson and traveled all over the states playing in different road bands. He played at the 95 Club with Clayton Houghton and all those guys. I mean, he was legit, man. He was the real deal.
Uh-huh.
As soon as I heard him play and I heard the chords and then started seeing the lead lines that he was playing around the chords, it's like instantly clicked.
That's what he meant.
Yeah, Freddie wasn't putting me down. He wasn't dogging me. He was giving me some of the best advice that anybody has ever given me in my musical career.
Yeah.
And so Terry and I just we became buddies, and I picked his brain for every lick that I possibly could.
Right.
And just what a fine player. And that's where I learned how to play twin guitars, was with Terry Mays. Mm-hmm. And man, he and I would get together, and it was funny because over the course of the last 20 years or so, we may go 3 years without seeing each other, and then we get together for a jam session or something, or a benefit show, and we sit next to each other and we start playing that twin guitar, and it's just like we'd been playing 6 nights a week at some old honky tonk somewhere.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then you're newly wedded, and and I know the Joe didn't stay out long.
No.
He was back
Yeah,
quickly.
he'd do like 6 weeks at a time, 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
I went out 6 weeks, and when we got back, I'm like, I'm done.
I'm good. I'm good. Okay, so you went back to Cass County, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, which now you get the information and the knowledge given to you,
right?
Hey, you want to be great. Mm-hmm. So you take that information and you're just like, okay, I'm going to do what I can do to be the best I can be.
Sure.
Right? Your craft is really just a part of you.
Yeah.
Now we talk about tone. Here's my thing. There's a lot of great guitar players. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys who can play the strings off of it. But sometimes you hear him and you're like, wow, he's playing some really cool stuff and great. Timing's good. I mean, the feel's good, but just, man, they got to fix that. What is that? And he's got the best rig you can have.
Yeah.
the best guitars, the best stuff, and you're like, why does it sound like that? Turn that down or this, and it's still, you can crank those knobs every way you want and stomp on all the boxes and pedals and whiz bangs and all that, and it still doesn't sound good.
And I think most guitar players would say they're that guy because I'm still trying to find that tone.
But okay, so some of my friends that are great instrumentalists or guitar players or whatever, musicians, they all say, especially Colt Prather, who played with me on the road for a few years, he just said, listen, you can have all the cool toys you want up there, but if you can plug in a guitar into an amplifier and turn the volume up, let the tone be half and half, just let her go and play, and it sounds good, that's because it came out of your hand.
Yeah, for years when I was playing, matter of fact, I didn't own an effects processor until the second time I played it at Cass County. The whole time playing at Tuffy's all the way through Big Creek, the first time I was there, it was literally straight into a guitar amp. Yeah. When somebody asked me about an effects processor the first time, I'm like, what the heck's that?
Yeah, what is that?
I mean, I was too poor to pay attention, let alone, buy effects and stuff like that. So it wasn't until I went out with Joe, and Joe was saying, hey, you need this effect on this song and this, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And I had no clue. I honest to God, had no clue.
Right.
Because just like you said, it was all in my hands and just that cable going into the amp.
Yeah.
Now, being a tele player, thank God for compression. I think most of us will say you got to have a little compression on a Telecaster,
Sure.
And after I figured out what they were, then I knew enough to be dangerous with them, maybe. It's like I think now, and this is in all God's honesty here, I think this guy right here in Kansas City probably has the best tone of any guitar player I've ever heard.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
AJ, he does have it. It's good. It's good.
He's got ears. I'm so proud of this guy right here.
Yeah.
He stole every lick I know and then some. And I'm a pretty good thief myself, but he stole everything I know. And then he makes it sound better.
Oh, God.
So,
yeah.
To you.
Well, it's again, guitar players are the good ones. You can make it sound amazing with anything. Like I said, you can plug it into a cardboard box and it's going to sound great.
Right.
So now we graduated from the Cass County thing, and is that when you went to because
what I was actually doing there for a while after I came back and went back to work for Cass County, I've always been an Opry show guy, good clean cut young man and everything doing the until I got an opportunity to play 6 nights a week at General's Inn. And I did that, but now when I first went down there, my deal with them was, and I was surprised they did this, they just really wanted me to play down there, evidently. I said, I will play Monday through Friday for you, but I can't do Saturday. I've already got a commitment because I wanted to, stay down there at the show. And I did Monday through Friday. We did 8 to 2:40 almost every night.
Yeah.
And there were some nights, if the crowd was light, they'd let us go home early. Well, at that same time, I went to work at a machine shop, actually learning a trade.
All right.
And so I would work at the shop from 7 to 3:30, go home, maybe take a little nap, get up, get cleaned up, get to the club by 8 o'clock when this first set started, play till whatever, get a couple more hours of sleep. And I did that for probably 3 years.
Right. I forgot about I forgot about the General's Inn.
Yeah, man.
How do you forget about that?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
What a deal.
Yeah.
Never had.
It was a good place, though. It was fun. It was a fun place.
I mean, tell you, that was the biggest country honky-tonk in Kansas City for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because the Beaumont Club then wasn't very big, and even the Guitars and Cadillacs we had in Westport wasn't very big.
Right.
Before they moved to Olathe, and then it became bigger. But General's Inn was a big club.
It was.
When did that place cease to
It's
exist?
Funky Town right now.
Oh, is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah. So
gotcha.
It wasn't near as funky when I was there.
All right.
but it was
Honky Town.
Yeah.
Honky Town.
Yeah. It was a great place to go hear music and they had some big shows come through there. General's Inn always had some good talent coming through. You're playing you're honing your craft and every night, every day doing that thing. And one of the cool things is because, I'm kind of a nerd about certain things. I love steel guitars. I love steel guitars.
Yeah, me too.
And I love playing with a steel guitar player because they add so much feeling and everything to music, and even when they're playing fast and just ripping, it's awesome. It gives so much energy. But you got to make one of the baddest steel guitars on the planet.
Yeah.
You're making Zums.
Yeah.
You're making Zum steels. And I mean, that's cool right there. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I got to be real good friends with Bruce Zumsteg and Jerry Mays. Terry, my guitar mentor's brother, Jerry, had a machine shop in Belton. I ended up working for him for about 14 years.
Yep.
Learning a trade, learning how to machine. And I made all the key heads and necks and end plates and just almost anything that shined on one of those guitars. I made that up there at Jerry's. And then, like I say, was fortunate enough to become good friends with Bruce and went to a couple of steel guitar shows with him and got to meet a lot of neat folks through him as well.
And that guy, he forgot more about steel guitars than
I've heard one of the greatest steel guitar players in Kansas City, Bob DeMoss. Mm-hmm. He says Bruce plays more steel guitar tuning up than most of the rest of us know, period. Just him noodling around as he's tuning, and I can't hardly disagree with him. He's a master at that instrument.
I've only got to hear him play one time, and it was at the steel guitar thing. Was it not in Urich? I bet you're thinking of Bill Job's big picnic jam. Yeah, but Bruce was there.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
He's scary good when he wants to be.
He was just sitting there, not even like they're like, okay, everybody's taking turns, and then he would just sit there and watch, and then he was like, they'd nod.
Yeah.
And he would just start going, and it never looked like he was doing anything crazy. Like he wasn't moving around like some of those guys, man. Their feet and going. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah,
feet paddling around and moving and levers and kicking bars and things. And he just sat there, kind of nonchalantly, and was just melting this instrument.
Yeah,
and the thing, and everybody's just sitting there going, like all the other players, they're looking at him like, what an ass, man. This guy, you know what I mean? And then they're like, I'm not playing next. You go. You know what I mean?
You follow that.
Yeah. So I got to hear him one time. And I've talked to him a couple times. Great guy. Super guy, nice guy. But it was just one of those things, man. And I see people out on the road with Zum steels.
Yeah.
Steel players all around the world have them. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, I know that guy. I know, and I know probably who made that stuff. You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny. Yeah. It's that's just awesome. So that would be coming out of that would be Lewisburg.
Shortly after I left General's Inn, I got back into doing the shows. And that's where I went back to
Big Creek. That's right.
I played Big Creek for a number of years, every Saturday night.
Yep. So that's where I saw you the first time.
Yeah.
It was during that time.
You were probably just a pup then the first time.
About 90, probably 95, 96.
And how old were you in 95 or 96?
12, 13.
Mm-hmm.
Then that make me feel old. Yeah, man. Yeah, I was doing Big Creek on Saturday nights, and then I started playing for our mutual friend that we lost a couple years ago, Brad Rigby.
Yeah,
Bradley had a little tavern down in Lincoln, Missouri.
So cool.
That boy was ornery as goose grease. Now I'm telling you, he was. But he was a hillbilly, but the real deal.
Yes,
man.
sir. Yes, sir.
And a fine steel guitar player.
Just fun. He was a fun guy.
Yeah.
And his place, Bradley's.
Oh. That was a staple. If you wanted to hear the real
so
country
good.
Music, I mean the way it was back in the day.
So good.
If you used to go to Tootsie's in Nashville back in the day and hear a band, that was what you would have heard.
100%. And they threw down.
Oh yeah.
All those guys, everybody he would bring in, from the bass player to it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was right on time every time.
I tell everybody that's where I got my PhD in honky tonk music right there.
Had to have been.
I mean, learning from those guys, when they would set the groove down there, the piano player that we had, Sonny Clark, his left hand, and Dave, our upright bass player, Dave Owens, when they would play together, it's like they were connected at the brain. It was just something you had to feel and hear to believe.
Yeah.
It was so good that I kid you not, I would have been content to just play rhythm guitar all night long and would have had a smile from ear to ear and been as content to play that.
Yep.
Because we had a fiddle player that would come in on Sunday nights. We had Bradley playing steel. Sonny was a phenomenal. He was like Pig Robbins. He was very tasteful like Pig Robbins on the piano.
Yep.
And always had a great rhythm section. Will Moffett, great drummer from around town. Will played down there for a number of years.
Yeah.
And so they always had good players down there. And it really was. It was like they're, again, going to school. And
I went with my folks one night, and they kicked off, I want to say you kicked off Swinging Doors or something. It was a shuffle. Mm-hmm. And it didn't stop.
yeah.
The song never stopped. It was like, and they went, and it's, you're like, okay, cool. You know, Swinging Doors, and then Fraulein. I mean, you're like, what the hell? We already, and then right into another one, and it never stopped. It was probably 15 minutes of shuffle, but it never was bad. It never was, you know what I mean? It was so cool. It was so cool.
Well, you know, Bradley was one of those places where he'd bring in, you know, some of the Nashville stars, you know, and I never will forget, he brought in Johnny Lee, you know, Looking for Love and Cherokee Cowboy. Not a lot of Western swing in Johnny's, you know, in his big hits, but let me tell you, the guy knew the stuff.
Absolutely.
So it didn't take long for him to come in and hear what kind of band it was that we had, and he realized that, look, I got to do Looking for Love because that's my big hit. I got to do that one. But he kind of just scrapped the whole rest of his set.
So let's just play.
And him and Dave Owens, they kind of clicked. You know, both had great big voices.
Yep.
You know, Dave sounded like Ray Price, you know.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, Johnny.
Dave sounded better than Ray Price. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, really, honestly.
He was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And Johnny, I got to tell you, he's so much better live than on his records. And a lot of people don't know that. And his records are great. But I kid you not, just like you just said, him and Dave, they went back and forth. One would sing a shuffle tune. The other one would come back with another shuffle tune. And it was literally 15, 20 minutes long.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the crowd ate it up. We had the most fun.
Yeah.
But, I never will forget that show. I mean, that is just one of those for the books. Johnny came in. He's like, okay, well, we're doing shuffles tonight. And
and that's what you did.
We laid it on them.
Yeah. Well, it was what, 2004 maybe when
Yeah, we actually opened up in Lewisburg in 2000.
Okay, all right.
So we opened up there, and at the time, we were playing Friday nights.
Yeah.
I was still doing Saturdays
At Big Creek.
At Big Creek.
Yep.
And Bill and Brenda Harris, they were, you know, they had bought that Rutlater complex out there in Lewisburg. And at the time, it was just a row of buildings is all it was. It was shops. It was a furniture store and knickknacks, and it was just kind of an 1880s Western town is what they wanted it to look like.
Right.
And he really had no great ideas of what he wanted to do. And my cousin Dave Irvin, who, you know, him and his wife Beth, they do singing and everything. They travel all over the country now. He just happened to drive by there, and he saw that big old building, the one that ended up becoming the theater, and it was just a shell. It was just a Butler building with absolutely nothing in it. And he met with Bill, and he says, what are your plans for this building? He says, well, I don't know. He says, I'd love to have a country show or something in here at some point in time. He says, because I think I'm going to put an RV park out here on the side. That was before any plans were drawn up for that or anything.
Right.
And Dave says, well, you know, I got a cousin that plays guitar, and he could put together a whale of a band for you. And so they actually came down to Bradley's. Mm-hmm. Met me down there, and then we discussed what we could do over at Lewisburg, and I went over and I saw the building. I never will forget, I walked in this great big old building. I'm like, you want to do what? We were out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as the Harrises do, man, they get an idea, and they're go-getters. They put it together.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we put a really fine band in down there, and had a lot of fun for a lot of years.
It was fun. That was a fun show. When I came home, obviously, I got the phone call. You were like, hey, why don't you come sing some songs, man?
Absolutely.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, I'd love to. So went down, started doing Big Creek, started doing the Northtown Opry, started just doing some Opries on the weekends.
Yep.
It was to kind of keep me singing, you know, basically, because now I got a real job, you know, doing that whole thing. And I remember I came down and Bill and them were like, hey, why don't you just become part of the show?
Yeah.
Just be here every week. Because
Right.
that's when we moved to Saturday.
Yep.
And like, we're moving to Saturday. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, I said, yeah, you know, and he said, look, I can't pay you a lot, but it's just being part of the show and blah,
Right.
blah, blah. And I thought about it. And I thought, you know what? Okay, let's do it. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. The band was always good. It was always really solid.
Yeah.
There was never a time when you're like, you know, the band they're just not getting it. It was never that way.
Right.
And fortunately, again, you playing in town, doing all the Opry shows, you knew all the players
Yeah.
to go, hey, I need a guy. We need a good drummer. We need a good piano player.
Yeah.
We had Angie for a while.
Right.
Angie Larson. And you know, and then Stu and
Pat Pierce, Frank Brown,
Pat Pierce,
Dan Doran.
Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean.
Some great
So
ones.
some great piano player, great and bass players, and then along comes AJ.
Yeah.
Along comes
Yeah.
AJ.
Our little hidden surprise.
Yeah, man. You know, and here he is. He's
surprise. Here's a guy that knows none of these songs. Here we go.
Well,
But you know what? So here's the thing. I remember when AJ showed up. I'm like, oh my god, this guy's like 12. This kid's 12 years old. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He's not gonna know shit. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking. And he literally and you were playing and you were like, okay, well, key A,
Yeah.
okay, and he played and I'm like, okay, good. It's fine. Everything's good. And that was the kind of good thing about those shows, man,
Yeah.
because they had come together. The other fun thing was, like you said, talking about the oldies rock and roll shows.
those were fun, man.
Oh my god,
A lot of work, too much work, but
too
they
much
were
work.
fun.
But you know what was awesome? You know, it was one of those things where for a guy like me, who, you know, I'm just I'm a singer, so just a country singer. But to go and be able to do some old rock and roll stuff, it was fun to learn some of that old stuff.
He was a country singer till he put on the Elvis outfit.
That's right.
Yeah, we were just
And then
actually
look
talking
out.
about that last week.
Look
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. So and then that, you know, and here's the thing. Again, I'm not that smart, so it's not real hard. You ain't got to twist my arm to have a good
Yeah,
time. You know what I
right.
mean? So for me to wear an Elvis suit was kind of like, okay, I'm in. You know, what do I got to do?
I'm a hunk of whatever you need me to be tonight. That's right.
And I remember that was probably one of the most fun times when I rode in on that Harley Davidson.
Oh, yeah.
Come through the crowd on a Harley in this Elvis
Yeah.
jumpsuit.
Right.
You know, here I'm like, this has got to be. I hope somebody has it on film somewhere.
Wasn't that like a 48
Oh,
something?
it
It
was
was
something.
a vintage, beautiful bike.
Yeah, it was
that we had
cool.
borrowed from one of our regulars there.
And
Yeah.
he was like, you just make sure, have you ever ridden? I was like, yeah, I grew up riding motorcycles, so I know how to ride. He's like, okay, good. Make sure you just keep clutching it because it'll die. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, so I come in and I had to ride it one time in before anyone got in there. I had to ride to make sure that the front end wasn't going to wash out or something on that slick concrete
Oh, yeah.
floor.
Right, yeah,
So,
no joke.
and then here I am in these patent white leather boots that are slicker than snot.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a family oriented, the whole thing was kind of like family, everybody, you know, the band and everybody, it was all like cool, you know,
Yeah.
everybody was really cool. And even though, you know, we all did different things and came from a different area or different, you know, like, I came from the road, you know, I was that guy and these people came from this and this guy was a church guy and that's all,
Right.
you know, it didn't matter. We all got together, had some of the better, I mean, literally had some of the better musicians you're going to be able to hear. Especially around here. I mean, there's not a lot of better people than what was on that stage. Singers and the singers that we had.
I think what made that show maybe musically a cut above, because like I said, there was always great shows around and everything, and each of them did their own great things individually and everything. I think what our calling card is that we really strived musically to play either as close to the record or as tasteful. We may not have played it just like the record, but everybody down there, with the exception of AJ when he was a young whippersnapper, because he didn't have all that much experience.
Right.
But by golly, we learned him down there.
Yeah.
But it's, most of the guys that we had, they knew enough about when to play, when not to play,
right,
how to play, how to compliment the next guy. Mm-hmm. And it was almost, I don't want to say cookie cutter when somebody would leave, because, when you have a band like that, you have turnover, different musicians, they get different opportunities.
Yeah.
And it seemed like we were so fortunate that if someone left, I had another somebody like, well, yeah, this one could do the gig, and we'd plug them in, and it's just like we just pick up and take off.
Yeah, absolutely.
And AJ, like I say, you were all of what, 22 or something like that?
I think it was about
21.
21 when I first started playing down there. Yeah.
21 when he started playing bass, and I had no idea, none, that he played guitar whatsoever.
Right.
He was playing bass on the show, and he was doing a fine job. And then I never will forget one day it was actually after rehearsal, I think. I'm getting copies of the list printed up, the show list printed up, and I'm kind of walking through our little rehearsal room that we had in the back. Yeah. And as I'm headed towards my office, I hear somebody playing what I assumed was my guitar and just playing the fire out of the doggone thing. I'm just playing. I'm like, holy cow, who is that? I walk around, I peek around, and it's him. And he's just burning it up. I'm like, was just totally shocked. I'm like, dude, when did you start learning to play guitar? And he said, I've always been a guitar player. I didn't know that. He said, I just play bass because I wanted the gig. And I'm like, okay. So then it's like we kept playing this one song. I can't even remember what it was, but it was. Well, he kept screwing up in the same place every time in this song.
Oh, that could have been anything.
But he finally admitted that it was like, I'm like, why are you missing this change right here or something? He said, because I'm watching your hands trying to figure out how it is you're playing that lick. He was stealing every daggum thing that I knew, which wasn't much, but
hey, that's what you do.
Paid off for him.
That's what you do. I guess
paid off for him.
Yeah, like I said, this is what our podcast is about. This is what we do. We just have, it's conversation. It's just cool. It's fun. It's easy. Okay. So, now, Lewisburg's gone.
Yep.
The Opry's done.
Right.
You kind of said, hey, I'm going to take some time off. I haven't really had time off since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I haven't really put my guitar down.
When most people work 30 years at a job, they get to retire. I thought, well, at least I could take a few months off,
Yeah.
So,
and I'm sure your phone, you're like, oh, man, this first week has been really not. I have no one's. And then, hey, man, wait, can you play tonight? Can you come over? You're like, no, forget my number.
Yeah,
I told you to never call me here.
I did get good at saying no there for a while. It's like, no, I don't think I want to do that.
So now it's fun. Now you're just getting to play for fun. You're getting to, you don't, it's like, okay, hey, I have a gig this weekend. Perfect.
Right.
That's it. I don't have one next weekend. I'm good. I'm free. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's when it gets fun. Are you having more fun now, you think, playing? Or is it just you get to play and it's always fun, that kind of thing?
Well, as it always is.
Okay, time out. Let me rephrase this. Are you enjoying playing more now that it's not an every weekend kind of thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got music in you, if you're a musician, once you hit the stage and the show is going, you're having a ball. And if you ain't having a ball, then you need to just quit playing altogether.
Absolutely, 100%.
Now, we all can agree that the whole setting up and tearing down and
That's what we get paid for.
Driving 8 hours across the state of Kansas looking at absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
That's not the most fun job in the world when you do that. Yeah.
No, listen, guys.
I wouldn't have said that, but I'm sure glad you did.
No, listen, I've played that fair twice.
Have you?
Yeah, I've put myself through that twice.
Well, you know what? I have too, and lived to tell about it twice.
Yeah.
But
just
barely.
God bless. That's the armpit of the world.
If it ain't, it's got to be right next door.
No, you know what? They're great people, though.
Nothing against those people in Hugoton.
Yeah. No, listen, honestly, it's just so far out there. It's so far away from everything. That's why they don't have fair rides.
Right.
Because it's just a 4-H fair. Because the fair ride people, the people who put on the carnies, That ought to tell you something.
Yeah.
When the carnies are like, yeah, you're a little too far out, bud.
When you can't even get a good waffle out there, you know you got trouble. So.
Yeah. No, so anyway.
They are good people. And, you know, we've always had fun every time we got out there. But it's there again. It's the stuff that leads up to getting your foot on the stage.
That's what we do. That's what we get paid for.
That's what you get paid for.
That's what we get paid for. Because doing the show, that's fun.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, I'd do that for a cheeseburger. I'd do about anything for a cheeseburger.
Yeah,
so,
me too.
That's a whole nother podcast. So anyway.
So so now you're playing just as you want to, kind of, I mean, not as you really as you want. You're playing with a group, kind of doing that thing with Delisa and those people.
So what we've decided to do, the last couple of years we've done Country Rewind has been the name of the group, and we had I call him my brother from another mother, Mike Bowman.
Yep.
Mike's a great singer, as you know. He was singing in that group, and Delisa, myself.
He's all right.
Yeah, he do.
Yeah.
For a hairy-legged guy, he's all right.
Yeah.
And then, but we had basically the band was Middle Creek. Bob DeMoss and Jamie Malone, who has turned into quite a fine little bass player and can sing the alphabet and bring you to tears.
She's amazing.
And Brad Meadows, we talked about this a little bit earlier about how I've known some of these different players throughout the years. Well, Brad was the drummer, not when I first started at Tuffy's, but before I left Tuffy's. I was about 13 when he and I started working together. He was the drummer up there.
Yeah.
And so, excuse me, the whole time we put the show together in Lewisburg, he was the drummer from day one down there.
Oh, yeah.
And has been with me all these years. So we did the Country Rewind thing. Mike decided he wanted to take some time off. He wanted to kind of get away from it. They wanted to vacation a little bit more. And so I got to thinking about it. I was like, I think this year, instead of doing a Country Rewind, I want to do Elijah Chastain of Middle Creek. And then we were going to feature Delisa Dawn. We'll have her come out and do her own, 20-minute segment or whatever of the show. And that's how we're going to approach the fairs this year.
Oh, okay.
Doing it that way. Because in a sense, it was Middle Creek that they were seeing when we go to these fairs anyway. It was the Middle Creek show, and so I want to be able to feature the guys in the band more like we did at the show, be able to feature Jamie a little more. Her and I are going to do a bunch of duets and stuff.
Sure.
Hopefully, we'll just lay the real deal down on folks. But I'm doing that. Probably we'll be doing Big Creek ever so often. Got to heal up from this shoulder surgery here. I haven't touched a guitar in a couple months now. So
how is that?
It's sore.
I'll bet.
I had physical therapy this afternoon, and it's killing me right now.
Yeah. Where do you go to Cirque, or where are you going?
No, actually, I'm really blessed. I'm blessed in so many ways. I mean, Lord's just been good to me. But one of the ways He's been good to me is this current job that I have is in Lenexa as a machining engineer. And when I hired in over there, they asked me what would it take me to get me over there. And I said, one of the things that I'd really like is to be able to take my wife to work. And my wife had ocular melanoma a few years back. And so they were so good. They were like, well, you pick what hours you want to work, and we'll just make it work. So 4 days a week, I drive my wife to work.
Yeah.
I pick her up, and I take her home. Well, it just so happens that, was it PT Solutions, I think it is, went in right above the office above where my wife works.
Oh, wow. So you just stop in, do the therapy, and then pick her up and go home.
Yeah. So Monday I go in. I leave work about, 15 minutes early.
Yeah.
I leave. I get my therapy in. I pick her up. I get done. As soon as she gets off work, we go home. Wednesday is her early day. That's the day she drives herself. It's my early day. I open the plant at 4:45 in the morning.
God bless.
Yeah, that's an early day.
Yeah.
But I get there by 2:00 and I do my therapy and I'm done. So it's been such a blessing though, because it's right on the way. I don't have to drive way out of the way. I don't have to take a bunch of time out of my schedule to do that.
Right.
And so the shoulder's getting better every day. I won't be entering any frisbee or horseshoe contest anytime soon.
Right.
But it's getting better. And I'm hoping to be playing in the next couple months anyway.
Yeah, so that'd be good.
Doc initially said 6 months before I would hold a guitar. I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, that's.
I don't think that's going to be the case.
Well, you know what you can always do? Get one of those guitar stands that you stand behind him.
Well, that's the thing right there. Is
just that arm
just like
out.
right there. That's about it.
Oh, yeah. Was it rotator cuff? Is that what?
Rotator cuff.
Yeah, it's that. It's my mom's had it, and I'm sure I need it every day. I wake up, my shoulders feel like they're gonna break, and I'm like, why? I didn't do anything, but it's like, oh, right there. You're like, and every once in a while you get a little catch. You're like,
right spot. Oh. Yep.
You kind of pee a little bit. You're like, oh, yeah, that's good. But that's awesome.
I can't say as I've ever done that. Just for the record, in case anybody's wondering, did I pee? If no, that was not me.
Well, dude, I appreciate you coming over and hanging out and telling the stories because like I said, it's always great to have friends that do what you do. You know what I mean? And we've been friends, like I said, I think 6 years old. I moved to Belton when I was 6. So
I got a picture of you, me, and Robin Pooch. Did you see that on the Facebook?
In the talent show?
In the talent show, yeah.
Absolutely.
The SOS band.
That's right.
Sons of South.
Yeah. Sons of South.
Yep.
That's
because your daddy's group was what?
Journey South.
Journey South.
That's right. It's crazy, but we've known each other forever and ever, and been able to play a lot, at the shows, and I remember one time I called Elijah, our guitar player, got hurt. I can't remember what happened to Kenny, and he was like he couldn't play, he was sick or something, like deathly ill, and he was in the hospital. I called Elijah, I said, "Hey man, we need a guitar player now." And he was like, "Oh, what for what?" And I'm like literally, you're going to have to leave tomorrow. I'm going to pick you up, and we're going to Oklahoma, and you're going to play at this nightclub in Oklahoma with us. And you were like, "Oh, okay." Is there a set list? So luckily, we had enough cover tunes that everybody knew that we threw in there. And the originals, I remember listening to the original stuff that we did in the truck on the way down. He's charting them out. Like listening, play that again. Yeah, play that again. And it was all, but it worked. It worked great. It was good.
It was fun time. Sure
it was awesome. So I appreciate you coming up and hanging out with us in the studio here in our little. And so we were in the basement, man.
Well,
we moved up in the world.
You're moving on up.
Yeah, we moved up. Can't move up any farther. This is it. So we're at the top. This is it.
Well, I really appreciate you guys asking me down. This is it's been fun, and it's always good hanging out with your friends. So I appreciate you guys.
Old road manager.
How may I help you?
Surprise! You're on a podcast.
What are you doing?
What am I doing? What are you doing?
Well, I'm doing my podcast.
Are you like right now at this very moment you were doing your podcast?
You are on a podcast, my friend.
I love being on a podcast. I have the perfect face for a podcast.
You do. All right, I got to introduce you real quick. So everybody, I just called my former road manager, Randy Foster. Randy was out with me right after the X Factor and out for a while, and great guy, just a lot of fun, and best road manager I ever had.
Oh, that was very kind.
Yeah, I know.
I barely ever got fired.
What's that?
I barely ever got fired.
I know, just that one time. It was just that one time that happened. It was weird, but I don't know. There was a lampshade and a remote control involved. I don't remember everything, but
it was a good remote control. I remember that one.
Man, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I am sitting up here in Seattle, Washington. I just opened up an arena. I'm the head of events over here at the new arena, which they've come up with a really silly name for. And I realized all those years in Nashville, I was the most liberal person in the entire universe.
Right.
And here I am the most conservative person that anyone has ever met.
They look at you like, oh my God.
They look at me like I used to look at Rush Limbaugh. It's weird, man.
Right. Man. Well, dude, I haven't talked to you in a while. Just wanted to call and make sure you're good and everybody good and healthy.
Everyone is healthy. My daughter is 1 year old, 1 year away from being able to drink legally.
That's crazy. I know mine is too, isn't it? It's just it's not normal or right. I don't think.
Our kids are getting old, which means we got old.
Yeah, we are old. That's just how it is. It's how it is, man. Well, dude, so you're running the arena up there, which you used to run the Bridgestone in Nashville.
I did.
Yep.
I did. I used to run events at Bridgestone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I listen, here's the thing. I get a phone call, right? They were like, my management company was like, okay, you need somebody to go out with you on the road as a road manager. And I'm like, okay. Well, a couple names came up, and one of them was Terry Clark's old road manager. Excuse me. And I don't remember his name. Talked to him on the phone, and everything was all right. And I had these shows coming up in Kansas City. So right after the show, we're coming back home, going to do these 2 sold-out shows at the Midland. And he couldn't do the first run, and the other name was Randy Foster, right? This guy, and I'm like, okay, not knowing this guy from Adam. I don't know him. He rides the bus up, and immediately he's just in charge, right? He's just like, here, we need to do this, guys. Here you go. Here's your room keys. Here's this. Here's meals. Here's this. And everything's in order. And he's taking care of the band. And I remember our first conversation in the front lounge of the bus. I said,
Yep.
You take care of these guys because they take care of me. So don't worry about me. I'm okay. You just make sure they're okay.
100%.
You make sure they're okay first, and then I'm okay sitting on the bus. I'll be okay, or whatever. And so just make sure you're taking care of them, and they get taken care of. And you were like, okay, right on, got it. And that's how it was. And it was just a lot of fun. We had, from that day, I remember after that first show, I think it was after the first show, right? Right after the first show.
Right after the first meet and greet.
Yeah, right after the very first meet and greet, we were on the bus, standing there, and you were telling the guy, okay, guys, here, blah, 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 rooms, blah, blah, whatever, because the bus was staying there because we did the 2 nights thing. And then I remember I said, well, what'd you think? And you're like, great, it was awesome. And I'm like, okay, good, you're it. and he was like, Randy just kind of standing there looking at me like, what? Oh, okay. Like, that was easy. And I'm like, yeah, man, no, you fit. Everybody got along. There was no rub anywhere.
Cool.
And it was just, we had a great group of guys. I had a great group of guys out on that bus.
Fantastic group of guys.
And there was no pretentiousness. It was just us against the world. That's how we looked at it. Cool. And every time the bus took off, the thing broke down. And it was just, I remember there's been so many times. Oh, the one of the best. We started a motorcycle gang. Yeah. We started the band. We started a motorcycle gang. We were the Zipper.
The most appropriate kind of motorcycle gang for Key West, Florida.
Yeah, for Key West, Florida. We were the Zipper Hickeys. Yeah, no, it was good. And so Colt Prather is 6'5", just a giant guy, and we're on these scooters, right?
Oh, man.
So all you see is his knees all poked out, and he's on this little bitty scooter we rented. It was just good times, Randy. They were good times. Right.
And they were the best of times. And one more thing to go on to this is we didn't have enough scooters.
That's right.
So I had to ride in back of Colt Prather, who was 6'5", and I'm 5'9", scrawny as all hell.
Oh yeah. 2 of them on the ones.
And the two of us on one scooter, we looked like half of the village people.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so good. It was so good, man. That was, like I said, it was great times. Well, I need to come up there and play your said arena sometime. Let's figure that out.
You need to.
Figure it out.
Country, I can work on it. I have naked pictures of the programmers, so
well, that's good.
I think they'll let me do whatever I want right now. I'm not going to tell you how I got them. Well, it was awkward.
Well, yeah. Well, Hayden has the best story. My son flew because I brought him out for a week. I said, you're going to go out with me for a week. You got to work though. I'm going to pay you. You're a hand. You're going to be a roadie. And I said, I'm going to fly you to Nashville. You're going to meet Randy. Randy's going to take you, get you on the bus. I was doing an acoustic thing. So me, Mikey, and Colt were doing acoustic shows, and we were going to meet the bus in Louisiana. So I fly Hayden to Nashville. Randy picks him up at the airport, and they go to Randy's house. And then my wife's like, listen, Randy, that's my baby, okay? And he's 15, 16 years old this time. So she said, listen, just don't let anything bad happen to him. And Randy's like, yeah, no, we're good. Nothing bad's going to happen, and then, he got a very fast life learning. That week he grew up. He went from 15 or 16 to like 25. But
I think that was the week your wife stopped talking to me.
Might have been. I don't know, but no, it was all good, man. So we just do this podcast. I do a weekly podcast now, and me and my buddy AJ, and we have different people on, and we talk about all kinds of stuff. But we just started this Surprise You're on a Podcast where we call people in our phone, and you're it, man.
Hey, you want one of my ex-wife's phone number?
No. Oh my God. Oh no. I just remember the one runner lady that we had out in California. Man, that poor girl.
Oh.
Yes, sir. I'll say no more.
I was going to say, don't say anything. It's going to get us sued.
Maybe that's the week your wife stopped talking to me.
Well, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you answering the phone. I miss you, dude. And let's, call me whenever you're thinking about me.
You got it. I think about you all the time, man. That was the best times.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. And we'll talk soon.
All right. Be real, young.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.
That was Randy Foster, my former road manager. Good dude. Absolutely. Good stuff, man. He's crazy, dude. He's a psycho. It's awesome. Love him. But literally best one I've ever been around. Best road manager I've ever been around. Cool. Anyway, well, that's it, man. I think we're good, AJ. You good? That was a good one.
Yeah, man.
That was a good one, man. Cool. So, anyway, thanks to Elijah for stopping by and hanging out with us. So remember, you have to subscribe, leave us a review and a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast, right?
Even if you want to tell us how bad we suck.
Yeah, just say, man, you guys
put it on there with a 5-star rating.
Yep. Give us 5-star rating
and we'll be good.
We are shitty Beatles. We don't care. As long as you give us that 5-star rating, we're good. We're good. All right, guys. Well, anyway, thanks for listening to this week, and we will see you soon.
Ain't this a sweet life?
Hey, guys, thanks for listening. Want to ask a question for a future episode? Well, hit us up on Facebook or Twitter with hashtag Sweet Life Podcast. And be sure to give us a 5-star rating and hit that subscribe button. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to stay up to date on the latest news and information for the Sweet Life Podcast. And we'll see you next time.